Hello, Happy New Year everybody. Normally we are going around visiting sites and I'm telling you about happy sites in London, but it's New Year's Day today and there's no congestion charge and so on. So I'm taking my little car out for a spin and we're going over Albert Bridge now, which is one of the prettiest bridges in London in my opinion. And I'm going to turn left and we're going to be opposite the Battersea Park. Later on our tours we will take you into Battersea Cat and Dog's Home and we'll talk about that. But anyway, enjoy the view. Just opposite us there, that piece of green, that is actually the Chelsea Hospital. Well, not that part there, but a little behind it. And that's where the famous Chelsea pensioners are. All of the old soldiers, retired soldiers. Charles II, his mistress Mel Gwyn, apparently, so the story goes, felt sorry for the soldiers. So she encouraged them to build this wonderful place. And it was a toss-up between giving them a pension or a home. So she got a pension. Now, it's ironic, isn't it? Over there we've got a wonderful home for retired trained killers, and on the opposite, facing them, we have the Peace Pagoda. And this was raised by a Japanese Buddhist monk. He was a friend of Mahatma Gandhi. Guru Fujiji he was called by Gandhi. That was the title he gave him. And when the war broke out, he actually went to Japan and he protested against the war. And just wonder he wasn't killed. But after the war, he had lots of these pagodas built all over the world. And I think there's still a Buddhist monk who comes there and prays and beats his drum and so on. But it's a strange, and we've got these opposites here in London. Okay, so let's just enjoy the view. Okay, on our right here we've actually got the Chelsea Physic Garden. It was established by a chap called Hans Sloane, who had a big mansion here. Okay, now we're coming up to a very interesting site. On the right here, this is the National Army Museum. And at one point it was in fact part of the Royal Chelsea Hospital. Because on our right we've got one of the finest buildings in London. It was established by Charles II for retired soldiers, invalids, and it's still running to this day. To qualify, it has about 300 soldiers living there now, and to qualify, a soldier must be over 60, unencumbered by spouse, and he hands over and he lives there until he dies. It's actually a village. You can see there, they've got their own graveyard, their own church, their own post office, their own pub. And they actually have women soldiers there now. They were introduced in I think it was 2008. But it's an absolutely wonderful place. And the soldiers there, they're career soldiers in the main. And they're full of stories. And in fact, they are used as tour guides who will take you around and explain the history of the place. And because it's really a kind of it was the Crown's way of showing their generosity. So it's really wonderful. Built in large part by Christopher Wren. It's got a wonderful chapel in there. As well as the library and so forth, they've also got their own church. And it's also the parish church of the area. And I intend to go there and praise the Lord one Sunday and have a chat to some of these people. Just very briefly, these houses here, when the whole area was developed, a chap called William Cubitt was employed, and he was prolific architect, if that's the word. He was a great developer. And actually down there you've got Victoria Coach Station, which is, talking about traffic hubs, it's a little bit like the poor man's Heathrow Airport. I remember I used to go there to catch the coach to get to Ireland to see my mammy. And now, of course, all of the Polish and Romanian people, they use it to go home. Actually, that church, I think attached to that church, there is a kindergarten. And that's where Princess Diana, when she was engaged to Prince Charles, then our present king, the press descended on her, and she was there with a child in one arm, and she was wearing a light summer frock, and the sunshine shone straight through it, and the British public got a good view of Diana's legs. So that was just back there when she worked as a nursery. Actually, this is the home of the Royal Philharmonic Orchestra, I believe. This is where they practice. The church was established by Queen Anne when they had decided to build 50 new churches. And somebody asked her what kind of a design she would have. And she was a bit cranky. And she had a footstool in front of her. She kicked it out. So I want something like that. So now if you look up, it's got those 4 towers that look like minarets. And they're supposed to be the part of the footstool. It's no longer a place of worship. But the other interesting thing actually about this church is, of course, we're in Westminster. This was Thorney Island. The ground here is very uneven and there's absolutely subsidence. So actually can you put the, look over to the door. Just past it. I'm getting a bit dizzy now going around this roundabout like this. But it's actually subsided here because of the ground. And actually it's there that you can see it. Just over here we've got one of the best views of Houses of Parliament. That, of course, is Victoria Tower, much wider and grander than Elizabeth Tower, in my opinion, which we refer to as Big Ben. But just in front of us, this is Westminster Abbey and Westminster School. And if we just go down here, we've got one of the funniest shops in London, in my opinion. Because down here, of course, the churchmen, this is where they come and they buy their regalia. Do you think I'd look nice in that? Around this part of Westminster, these were the homes of a lot of MPs and so on. This chap here, W.T. Stead, he actually sank with the Titanic, and he's a very brave man, and he actually gave his place on a lifeboat to a lady, and he drowned himself, a hero. The other thing you'll notice actually is the windows are blocked up here. The windows are blocked up because of the window tax. Daylight was taxed in this country at one point, and people bricked up their windows as a consequence. And just down here, if I can find it, I'm lucky it's so quiet today on New Year's Day. There is, see on the other side, public shelter under. So during the war, under here there was an air raid shelter. Okay, so right opposite us, of course, we have MI6, James Bond's home, and Mr. Bean's home. Oh no, it was Johnny English, wasn't it? Johnny English was there. Actually, as you know, I had a tryout for a job driving a duck. It was a London tour bus, but it was actually a kind of a refurbished amphibious truck, and we would give people tours around London, and then we would take them onto the Thames, and we would take them onto the Thames on the slip road just by MI6. And I was going to ditch my job and do that as a guide and a driver. But unfortunately, MI6 were doing some work and they closed the slip road, and the business had to close down. So another one of those great what ifs in your life. And of course, directly in front of us on the left, that's MI5, Domestic Intelligence Service. You can walk up the gantry there and walk across the bridge from a very elevated height. And the floor is actually glass. And I just wonder what that sensation must be like. Of course, back in the day there was a moat here, and there's also been a zoo. One of the interesting things, people would have to pay to visit the zoo. Well, of course it was a zoo because it was a menagerie. People would give gifts of wild animals to royalty when they would visit, and they were kept here. But at one point it's very dark thing that if people bring their unwanted cots and dogs, they could be fed to the wild animals, and then you would get in free of charge. The City of London, of course, is the financial capital of the country, and with all of the mischief that they've got up to and how much they've put us all in debt, some people have asked for that dragon to be turned around so that the general public can be protected from the banking industry. This pub was actually an old bank at one point. Old Bank of England. This is one of my favourite churches, St Dunstan's. It's used by the Romanian Orthodox Church now, and the statue you have there, ringing the bell, that is of Gog and Magog, two biblical characters. And actually statues of those two characters are paraded on the Lord Mayor's parade every year. Oh yeah, this is a cabbie's hut. They're scattered all around London, and the story goes that I think it was Prince Albert, he couldn't find a sober cabbie, so he decreed that these huts be put up so that cabbies could have refreshment. Of course, this was in the time when they were driving hackney cabs, and of course they were exposed to the elements like we are now. And you can actually still buy food from them when they're open, but not only cabbies are allowed to go in. Oh, this is actually the RAF Museum. This was also bombed, and the shrapnel damage has been left. Now we're going up Fleet Street now, the home of our print industry. The Royal Courts of Justice on our left. And now this here, this monument here, this marks where we enter into the City of London itself. And the dragon on there, that is to keep out evil spirits and so on. Okay, we are now in Ludgate. And we're going into the city, so of course in front of us we have St. Paul's Cathedral. A very fine building indeed. Actually, the St. Paul's that was here before the Great Fire of London was actually taller than the present St. Paul's. Actually, St. Paul's, Nelson, of course, he's buried here. But one of the things that makes it very special to me are the steps just over to the left. That was where the bird lady sat. And encouraged the children of Mary Poppins to feed the birds. I can't remember the name of this church, but it received a direct hit during the war. And they've actually laid out the garden there as it was when it was actually a church. They've got the Museum of London in front of us, well, I think it's actually moved. This whole area over there, you see that tall skyscraper? That's the Barbican. And that whole area was redeveloped because it was flattened in the war. Absolutely flattened. This is St. Botolph's church. St. Botolph was patron saint of travellers. So this is Aldgate, and this was situated so that people could say their prayers before they set off on their travels when they would leave the city of London. Now, I'm not allowed to turn left here, but this, in days of old, was the High Street of London. And the church that you can see there, that's actually St. Mary-le-Bow. And it's said that if you are born within earshot of the bells of this church, you are a proper Cockney. Okay, we are now approaching Bank, called Bank because that's where the Bank of England is situated, just up there on the left. On the right we have Mansion House, the home of the Lord Mayor of London, the City of London, not the London City itself. That's the Caldwainers Church. Stone was held. I think that is London Stone. Good to see it. Yeah. Right now we're now going over the London Bridge, and the old London Bridge is really a picture. Over there, look at this is the monument to commemorate the Great Fire of London. It started there in Pudding Lane. But actually there's a church just down there called St. Magnus the Martyr. And in that church they have a mock-up. Yeah, they have a mock-up of the old London Bridge. And there of course we've got the Shard, Southern Cathedral, and look over there to the left where we have the iconic bridge. Over here we've got the Borough Market, and of course this is where Bridget Jones lived, the fictitious character. She's like a character from a Dickens novels in people's minds now. Please, 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 can I go left? Oh yeah, here's a little bit of a story for you. This is Crossbones Cemetery. Actually, if you take a picture of the gate itself, in the Middle Ages, Wessex was the predominant kingdom in England, and the Bishop of Winchester, he had his palace here in Southwark, and people had to pay their taxes. But actually, south of the river was famous for entertainment, theatres, bear baiting, cockfighting, and prostitution. And a lot of girls, they would go into the trade, and although they weren't recognised, they would still have to pay taxes to the Bishop of Winchester. But when they died, they were not allowed to be buried in consecrated ground. And I can't remember when, but around about the turn, about the 2000s, TfL were digging around here and they came across a lot of bones, and it was discovered that this is where the girls were buried. And people said, look, no, you mustn't develop it. You must keep it as kind of semi-sacred ground. It's not been consecrated. But look at the people. They've really, marked this gate. Anyway, may they all rest in peace. Actually, Christian just pointed out this building on our right here, it's a posh hotel now, but it was, of course, where the Port of Authority, their headquarters, was held, because we've got to never forget this is a port city. This on the right is a memorial to all of the merchant seamen who died in both wars, and just to the right was the site of public execution behind the fences there. This church here, All Hallows, it's a museum inside. It's absolutely fascinating. It's said that the heart of Richard the Lionheart was buried under the altar there, and it's full of myths and stories like this. Yeah, this is Billingsgate Fish Market. Michael Caine worked here for a while. Just on our left we have a letterbox. This is what we used to use before we had emails. A very ancient form of communication. But keep it running, because on the left we've got what in my view is one of the loveliest churches in London, St. Magnus the Martyr. And keep it over to the left, Christian. There we have it there. And it's a peculiar church because it's an Anglican church, but it's high church. And if you go to a service there, it'll be in Latin. They pray for the Pope. They have a shrine to Our Lady of Walsingham. And I went in there and I was asking the people, how come you are so Catholic? And they said, we're even more Catholic than the Catholics. We're like the Catholics before Vatican II. So it's fascinating. I find them very, very interesting. Are you fed up with London yet? Okay, just on our right, this is Embankment Gardens, I believe. And if you look in carefully, Christian, you might be able to catch York House. York House was a big stately mansion there. And in order to, the way to get in was by boat. And you would take your boat, and there's the entrance there, can you see it? So it just shows you how much land has actually been reclaimed. When, of course, it's not as old as people really think. It was the original palace burnt down in the 1840s, and a competition was given out to architects And what they actually said was the architecture must match the Westminster Abbey. And unfortunately we have to turn right and we're going to miss Westminster Abbey. But in Westminster Abbey there was a shrine to Henry VI, very elaborate, very similar architecture to what we have there on the Houses of Parliament.